You're listening to Mixing Mindsets. I'm Andrew Blank.
And I'm Eric Navrosky, and we hope you find some value out of these conversations about lifestyle, music, and more.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mixing Mindsets. Today we have Dan Gray. Dan, we're going to talk about humility, but first, let's introduce you.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself, Dan.
Yeah.
For those that don't know you.
Yeah. So I'm 32 years old. I'm an associate pastor. I'm an operations supervisor at a linen company.
Ooh.
So that's the boring part of my life. And I've got a wife, 2 kids. They're wild. They're 2 and 3 years old. And I just have lived a pretty wild life of different experiences, and
Right on.
it's kind of led me to where I am today.
Yes,
And
and
yeah.
we know Dan. I mean, at least I know Dan through music. I don't know.
Oh boy, do I know Dan. Dan was my camp counselor.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Oh yeah, Dan and I go so far back.
Oh, wow.
And I took him
Um,
to his first metal show ever as well.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
Well,
To the point where one of the bands was like, "I want to see Wall of Death," and I was like, "Dan, what is that?" And he's like, "You should come over here."
Time to go, Eric.
Well, that just blew my mind. I'm
Oh,
glad
yeah.
I know this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a camp called Camp Orchard Hill around here, and Dan was like the youngest counselor, and I was like the oldest camper.
Okay.
So our age gap wasn't that
Mm.
much,
Right.
But it was. I don't even know how many times were you my counselor.
I think it was like almost all through high school.
Yeah, it was
yeah,
like
so it was
a
like for
good
like
chunk
4
of time.
years almost
Yeah,
or
so like,
something. yeah.
and every
Right on.
like people called me Mini Dan Gray for a while
Mhm.
because I dyed my hair the same as him.
What color?
It was black and red.
Yeah,
I love that.
I did the whole like emo scene thing
Yes.
with the
Yep, with the red
swoop and
streak.
the red
Yep.
stripe.
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
did that, and then I went to camp, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Mini Dan Gray!" Yeah. So I mean, we go so far back. I mean, what was I like?
Probably 14,
14, yeah.
somewhere around there.
14.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
14,
learning
15.
a lot right now.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
And we played in.
We played in
one band
bands together?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
It goes back.
it's a
it
deep
goes back-
relationship.
It goes back super far. Wow.
Yeah. I think we played in bands when I was 18.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think we
think.
just played like 2
It was
shows
like
together.
18
One
or
where
19.
We opened for Miss
Miss
May
May
I.
I.
What was the name of the band?
From Deliverance.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Deliverance.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
And then that
2 shows and the band died.
Yes.
that
It was
disbanded
Eric's fault,
quickly.
actually. No, I was just kidding.
Oh, no.
wasn't my fault.
I don't know. I don't think
it
so.
was
now
my
you
fault.
think, you
No.
think like it might have been. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, honestly, it could have been. I wouldn't like 18-year-old me, so I would imagine other
I don't
people
think
didn't like
anyone
18-year-old
really
me.
looks back and likes their 18-year-old self.
You think you're cool back then, but
Yeah.
then you
You're
look
like,
at the photos
oh,
and you're
no.
like,
You're like, oh, what have I done?
cringe.
But anyways,
Yeah.
so that kind of sort of segues us a little nicely into humility.
It does. Because you guys
that you can
share
admit the fact that you weren't maybe the best person. And that was certainly me. And I try to stay with that mindset throughout life, as hard as that is.
Mhm.
You want to take pride in things that you do, and you want to look at the things you do and say, hey, look, I like this, I'm proud of this. But how do you find the balance of doing that to a healthy amount
Mhm.
and then not being arrogant and prideful and staying humble
Yeah.
and whatnot? And and to me it always comes back to I just try to think of like Jesus is looking down at me right now and being like, hey,
Hey.
Knock it
hey.
off.
cut it out. Yeah. And when you look at the basically the tenets of the Bible, I try to follow that, and that tries to keep me as humble as possible. Now,
Mhm.
certainly I don't follow that as well as I probably should, because
Mhm.
that's humanity.
Yeah.
But I try, it as cheesy as that "what would Jesus do" thing is.
Yeah.
It's so corny, but it's kind of the thing
It's
that
just a
holds
good-
you down
it's a good
little bit.
philosophy, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's some words to live by.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
no, and I think that because obviously being in ministry, I've been in and out of so many different ministries. Like I've done skate park ministry, traveling to different countries, speaking,
Right.
I've had so many, and then being in a metal band and doing all those things where I'm actually speaking about God from stage.
Mhm.
So like I've had so many varieties of experiences. So like I know that I have friends that are not Christians and may not believe the same thing I do, but also still strive to, be better,
Be better, yeah.
themselves. You
Yeah.
know, that's why it's like, you see all these YouTubers and authors that are like these self-help
So-
books,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it's like, you know, the people make fun of it, but it's like, you know, there's a lot of people who want to see a better version
At
of
its
themselves.
philosophical core, like they
Yeah.
all are there for the same reasons. Like,
Yeah. So, and that's what I try to tell people. Like, yeah, obviously, like my compass and like why I do what I do is based off of a relationship I have with Jesus as,
Mhm.
you know, a pastor and as a Christian.
Mhm.
But for like, even for people who may not, you know, believe that, like, you have to take an honest look and look deeper
Oh yeah.
and not think of like, how is this going to affect me now? But like, how
Yeah.
is this going to affect other people around me? How is this going to affect, my life 5 to 10 years from now? Like all these different things.
right.
And then taking an honest look
Yeah.
and being able to like be humble enough to say like, okay, am I doing the right thing, you know? And surrounding yourself with people who aren't just yes men or lazy people that are just gonna tell you what you want to hear.
yeah.
I think that's a huge part of it. You got to have a
I
good
heard
community.
something somewhere at one point about how like it's like the person who's able to look at themselves the deepest ends up getting like the most like rational results out of life
Mm,
because you're just able to experience life outside of your own point of view
mhm.
and from this objective point of view where like you're just making the right decisions based on not yourself but on the correct philosophies of life.
Mhm.
I learned that
Yeah.
in high school pretty good because I was always super prideful to be like, oh, well, I follow this and you don't follow this. And I'm basically better than you because I do this. And it's a horrible mindset to be in. But you know, one day I'm talking to people that I trust and people who are smarter than me. And they're like, why you're going up to this person? You're like, you're not following, you know, what the Bible teaches. And then that person doesn't even believe anyways. So what do they care?
Mhm.
You know, and then I have to take a step back and be more humble with it and be like, okay, maybe I'm the jerk,
Mhm.
you know, because I'm
Right.
constantly trying to be like, look how good I am. Why aren't you doing this? And then, you know, it ends up being not fruitful for anybody.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't help me grow as a person. It doesn't help the other person grow.
Mhm.
And that was a tough lesson to learn because you end up going through most of your life without friendships.
Mhm.
I mean, I had a couple friends. I'm not saying I was completely isolate, but I mean, there's so many people that would just be like, I don't want to be around him.
Mhm.
Right.
You know,
Some people are like, you know, when you're blind to the ego of yourself,
yeah,
you sometimes get involved in situations like I believe Dan said before, where you're surrounded by yes men.
Yeah.
who are kind of all there for the wrong reasons.
yeah, you're in a bubble.
The echo
Yeah.
chamber.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there's
well-
something about that doesn't relate well to longevity. And
Mm.
unfortunately, I feel like
Building healthy relationships.
Yeah, what
Mhm.
that person needs is to be chopped down a few blocks. Yeah.
Well, like even think about that from the music side of things, since
Mhm.
obviously, you know, mixing mindset and whatnot. But like I've looked at situations with artists who are huge. So like, have you ever seen the video of who was it, Fergie
Yeah.
singing the national anthem at like the NBA All-Star game or something?
Yeah,
like that?
I was just like, it's very weird that you said that because I was scrolling through like TikTok or something, and that was in the comments of something. That,
Oh, yeah?
so I like recently
Yeah.
rediscovered that.
Well, it's
Anyway.
like literally the worst national anthem I
Yeah,
think of.
it's-
Like it's in the top, you know, for sure.
Yeah,
But-
objectively, it's pretty
really
bad.
bad.
It's
Yeah.
pretty, yeah.
I
I don't know.
don't
She was
actually
trying
know.
to go for this, like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Like all the wrong moves happened
40s,
throughout this
like,
performance.
I don't know. It was some type of weird vibe
Yeah.
she was going for,
Right.
and it just didn't fit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, think about people who get to a point where they're surrounded again by people who are gonna be like, oh, it sounds great, but like inside they're like, this is garbage.
Yeah.
Like, you
that's,
know?
that's Fergie. Trust me,
Yeah.
guys, it's good.
And like,
Yeah.
so like, obviously she's at like a higher level, but like even in like the local scene or in
Yeah.
like maybe in the middle somewhere, like if you're surrounded by people that are just gonna say, yeah, your stuff's great, and it'll be like, I don't know, I might have chopped that up
it doesn't
there.
promote growth.
No,
Right. Like
at
exactly.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk about that all the time with people. I always say like people need to be told, including me, need to be told you're not good at this, and not in a negative way, not to be
Yeah.
like, oh, you suck,
In a
but
way-
to be like, you have room to improve.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And sure, you can celebrate the things that you're good at too, but if you want to keep growing as a person,
Mhm.
here's where your weak points are, and this is where we think, I think you should strive to grow. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with somebody telling you,
Right.
hey, you're not great at this.
The person who's
you know?
always willing to grow is the person that, long term is going to get the better results.
We-
Because
Go
if-
ahead.
I was gonna say, because if you're stuck in this like I'm good at X and
Yeah.
I'm going to stay there forever because I believe that I'm great.
Oh yeah.
Everyone else is just going to surpass you
yeah,
over
right.
time.
Sarah and I just read a proverb today about that. It's
Yeah.
just about like the people who are not willing to take criticism are fools.
Yeah.
People who don't take someone saying like, hey, maybe you've got some place to improve here.
Yeah.
And that's okay, and to take a good internal look, self-realization to say, put your humility, or be more humble, put your pride away and say, yes, I do have a weak point here, or maybe I'm not the greatest at this.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you need to stay there. You
And-
can get better at it, or
Yeah, I've experienced that with music too, because like I am like a shotgun shell of ADHD. So like
Yeah.
even musically, because like one day like I just did a set like a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
and it was like all like folk kind of country stuff.
Yeah.
And like I had a blast with it, but then I'll be like wanting to do like like metal music or all these
Yeah.
things.
everything.
I even at one point, and this is embarrassing to admit, but at one point I was listening to this. It was a Lil Wayne instrumental,
Yes.
and I came up with lyrics to it. I thought it was awesome. Like I really thought I was
Yes.
good.
We've,
Like,
we've all
fully.
been there. Yeah.
We fully thought it was good. And then when I met my now wife, but when we first started talking, not even dating yet,
Yeah.
I was showing her, here's some music here and this and that. When she heard that, she literally was like, "You need to take that off the internet."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yo," I was
And
like, "That
that's
was
why
the
she's
moment."
your wife.
I know, because I'm like, she is not just gonna tell me what I want to hear,
Exactly.
as much as it hurts my feelings in the now. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
That's
But,
awesome.
Yeah, so I have not pursued rap ever since. I gave up that career immediately.
Didn't get the face tat.
Yeah.
Just imagine if she wasn't there. Oh no.
I know I could be
I
could be having multicolored hair.
Little Dan Gray right now.
Face
is who we've been
tattoos.
talking to.
Yeah,
Little Gray.
Lil Gray.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Okay, so I want to go off of something that I know you have done. You have gone on missions trips,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to relate that to humility.
Yeah.
Because that probably is a whole world of culture shock
Yeah.
and whatnot. So kind of tell us where you've been, what you've done, what the experience was like, and how you would relate that to what it taught you in
Yeah.
humility.
Well, I've had so many different experiences because, like, I've been to Peru, I believe it was 5 times now,
Mhm.
and then Dominican Republic, I've been there 3 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
And one of the last trips that I was there, I believe it was the last trip, I was actually speaking at their festival. So
Right.
I was on their billboard and everything.
Oh,
They
wow.
spelled my last name EY instead of AY, which it's okay. I
You
still
let it
love
slide.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had the
But-
LAL right in the beginning.
But it's
though.
weird because like I was like we were like at different schools doing like school assemblies where we'd be speaking and skateboarding and doing little demos and
Yeah.
stuff. And you'd hear one of these trucks in the street drive by with the like radio, like the big speakers on it,
Mhm.
and you'd hear my name, but it'd be like Dungray, and I'd be like, "What? This is like so weird." But so I've been there a bunch of times, and it's just so humbling because you see these people who are living in like huts,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
are like just straight up dirt on the ground, like no flooring, anything like that.
Right.
And we always travel with a medical clinic when I go to Dominican Republic.
Right.
So on that trip, the people saw me on the billboard, so they knew me as a pastor or evangelist, and
Yeah,
so
sure.
so they'd have me, come pray for somebody in the medical clinic and different things. And the one lady, she wasn't able to get into the medical clinic because there were
Yeah.
so many people.
Mm.
And then they
Jeez.
showed me her leg, and they pulled the wrap off, and it was
Oh no.
one of the most. I felt so bad because I almost threw up. Like
Yeah.
it was literally
Ugh.
like decaying flesh.
Yeah.
And so I went in and I was like, "Can we please get this lady in here? Like this is pretty brutal."
Mhm.
And so the lead medical doctor for that the medical clinic, he actually brought her in, took a look at it, and so they dealt with that and were able to help her to a degree.
Oh wow.
And I said, "So what's gonna happen?" I talked to him later at dinner, and he's like, "She's gonna lose that leg."
Oh,
And then he's like, the crazy part is it's like simple things like vitamins and different antibiotics, things like that, basic stuff we can access in the States
Right.
that would have prevented her from losing her leg.
Mm.
And I was
my
just
gosh.
like, oh,
That's a
like
huge
heartbroken.
perspective shift. Yeah.
right.
So it's just like, when you go to those places, it's just, it's an eye opener to see that, like, I'm there to share and encourage with, like, especially the pastors and the ministers
Right.
and different things and the people during the events.
Mhm.
But like, every time I go there, I learn more about myself and how blessed I am and the things I have.
Right.
And that's
You
what
come-
shifted
come
my
home to a
perspective
house.
Yeah.
Huh?
Come home to a
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, seriously.
Like-
That alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's
Well, I
something
think about
to be grateful for.
yeah. We think about that all the time. My brother-in-law is Malaysian,
Mhm.
and they went and visited his family in Malaysia, and he's like, you should see the way that they have to live.
Mhm.
I mean, the income that they bring in is so minimal that
Yeah.
you're not living in a home.
Right.
Basically, you're
Yeah.
living in shacks and small little rooms, or like one room,
Mhm.
basically huts that 8 people need to live in.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's, I mean, you look at that perspective and you're like, oh my gosh, like where I live, the comfort that I have, like that should keep you,
Yeah.
that should keep you humble.
Well, and I think that like no matter what you're in, if you're in, ministry, or if you're in music, or if you're in recording, whatever you're doing, like
Yeah.
I think a big part of keeping yourself humble is realizing that if you have a gift, like how are you going to use it to do what you love to do, but how are you also going to use it to help other people along the way?
Right.
I think that's immediately going to keep you humble, because if it's like, whether it's maybe like some kid in your community that you can give guitar lessons to, or
Yeah.
somebody who's starting off in recording and you're going to have them shadow you so they can learn the ins and outs of the
Yeah.
trade, I think that's such an important thing, mentoring to helping other people
Yeah.
for sure.
Understanding that utilizing your gift to do nothing but to give to a community. I think
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How do you find the balance between that and also, I guess, survival?
Yeah.
Because at some point there is a bottom line.
Oh, for
At
sure.
some point
for
there
sure.
you do have to bring money into your family. You do
Yeah.
have to, so that's something that is a difficult balance, I think, a difficult
Mm-hmm.
balance to find of, I try to give back as much as I possibly can. And if it's not financially, because, whether Sarah and I aren't in that position or whatever, I try to use at least my time or my
Mhm.
skill set, to help to some degree,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
No,
But
that's
that's-
what I was just preaching on that this past Sunday. I was speaking on finance, but like,
Yeah.
there's a parable basically about like the talents. You know that one, the parable of the talents. So like,
Mhm.
it's basically talking about the kingdom of God and how an example of that. The parable is how this master brings his servants in, gives one of them 5 talents, one of them 2, which is basically a talent is like a year's worth of wages.
Mhm.
So one's 5, one's 2, and one gets 1 talent. And like, the first 2 that had like the 5 and the 2, they double it. And then the last guy, he buries it in the ground and he brings back only 1.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so like that, the reality is it's not as much, how much you're making in that scenario, but it's like what you're doing with it. Are you going to
Right.
do something?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, to each person has different responsibility levels and different things. Like for me,
Mhm.
I'm bivocational as far as like ministry goes. So like I'm part-time in ministry, and then I have a full-time job that actually really pays the bills.
Right.
So like I can't devote a certain amount of time. I have to know
Right.
that my family and everything else that comes 1st, and making sure that I take care of my responsibilities. But then I know that what time I do have, then I have to
Right.
you be responsible with your time, like
Exactly.
you can't
Yeah.
you have to know that if you're taking care of your family and all that, that's number 1 for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and especially with now, like us having newer
Children, yeah.
families, new children.
Oh, yeah.
You look at Elliot, who is only 10 weeks, I give or so at this point. And it's like, I just think of, I'm like, I'm responsible for you. I have to
Yeah.
provide for you.
Mhm.
I have to, it's such a weird hit, like all of a sudden, because you literally go from 0 to 100.
Well, what was
It's
like,
just,
and I'm curious.
There's
of
no
this.
baby, and then there's a baby.
Yeah.
Like, what was it like for you guys when you found out that your wives were pregnant? Like, what was that feeling when you first found out?
Ours was not like an accident, so we kind of.
yeah.
I
Well, I
kind
mean,
of
like,
expected.
We were kind of in
yeah.
the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like,
I had
but that
expectations.
reality check,
overwhelming
like for me, it was
joy,
like,
but like I think that for me the reality check happened when Isaac was present.
Yeah, that's
Like,
Yeah.
It was just like the
Yep.
pregnancy was kind of like, oh, I'm excited. I got a little anxious here
Yeah.
and there, but then baby's here, and you all of a sudden your responsibility goes from
Yeah,
0
you're like,
to
oh
1,000.
crap.
yeah. Well, and it's
That's
different
the
because like your
rea-
wife's literally for 9 months like carrying this
Yeah,
baby, so she's
exactly.
like, I know those things here, but like for you, it's kind of like, all right.
It's just-
Yeah,
very
it's like
weird.
sort of
Yeah.
not real until
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
right
Until
in
it's
front of
there.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, because I was working an insurance company,
Mhm.
and I was like definitely not making enough to provide for the baby that was coming. So like as soon as I like that fully hit that we were,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god. So like I literally went and applied to like over 100
Every-
jobs
yeah.
in
It
one
puts
week.
a fire under you.
Yeah, it really does.
Mhm.
Motivates you for sure.
Yeah,
then-
that's definitely with the studio too, because like
Yeah.
this is my full time. So if times are slow, all I'm thinking of is I have a baby.
Yeah.
I've got to do everything I possibly can to make sure that that we're doing it.
Yeah.
That we're making enough and
Yeah,
that we're
100%.
surviving.
You know, it's funny because I think in terms of my life predicament, I'm in that weird circumstance right now where we're finally getting that like a little bit of balance on like our day to day. So it my brain also it's finally like cycling back to understanding that there are basic needs that need to be attained throughout the day, but also that mentality of like what can I do with the little bit of time that I do have to
Yeah.
give back? It's like the ultimate juggling act of that
Yeah.
right now in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I feel like the first 3 to 5 months with my son Isaac was just chaotic. It was just
Yeah.
like I don't know what I'm doing, struggling every single day.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then when you get that little bit of balance back in life, you're just like, okay, let's reset and get the goals back.
Mhm.
And so I'm getting there, but
I was gonna say I
Yeah.
don't know if I found that quite yet.
yeah,
I don't know if I found the balance again.
No, you won't. It's gonna take time.
Yeah. I feel like
You gotta
a
go
schedule
2
gets
months.
established, and then you're just like, okay, how do I juggle? Like you start like sprinkling some of that
Yeah.
back in, and then you just
Yeah.
juggle it.
It's funny. We were just talking
Yeah.
about this before you showed up, but the other night, 2 nights ago, Elliot slept for 8 hours,
Oh.
and it was like
Mhm.
I felt worse. It's funny. Like
I'm not supposed to get this much.
yeah,
sleep.
like it was. We put him down at 10:30, and we went immediately to bed because obviously we're exhausted.
Mhm.
And I woke up at 6:30, and I tapped Sarah, and I was like, "Did I forget? Like, did we sleep through it? Is he okay? Is he alive?" And yeah, he just slept for 8 hours, and yeah, I don't know. My body was just not used to it. I guess I'm used to waking up every. Like he usually gives us a 4-hour stint and then like 2 and 2 and 2 hours.
Mhm.
And my body got used to that. And then when I got 8 hours, I almost felt worse. And Sarah did too. She fell asleep with the coffee in her hand on our couch. Her head was just like down and she's just holding the coffee. And she had her eyes closed and I tapped her and I was like, "Hey, you're gonna spill the coffee." And she's like, "No, I'm not sleeping." And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna take that
Yeah.
from you and put it
You should have
over
taken
here."
that picture.
I
and
know.
framed it for her for Mother's Day.
Oh, I did that with Gabby all the time. That's been her like ongoing thing.
Yep.
Just only on car rides though. Specifically, she's like, I'm not gonna fall asleep. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that
out.
takes,
Yeah.
mouth open.
Immediately,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that I mean the baby will keep you humble.
Oh, for
humble
sure.
too.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
because that's the
Oh, yeah.
reality is like you're not just thinking about yourself anymore.
Yeah.
And like even though like with a wife, like you are thinking about providing for her, but she's also involved in that equation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like you're working together, but like
Yeah.
when you bring a child into this world and then it's like
Oh my gosh.
that is
Yeah.
it changes your perspective on
Mhm.
everything for sure.
Even
It really
in terms
does.
of like ego, you know, like I don't want my child to think that I have an ego. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Like
you don't want to
relating
raise
back
a D bag.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, cycling back to humility and everything, it's just like the reality of it is you don't want to be that. So you don't become like, you make sure you're not that no matter what.
Mhm.
Yeah, you almost there's eyes on you at all times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like
well, where my
literal
kids are
physical eyes
like
on you.
Gideon was a little bit slower. My older one, he was a little bit slower to his speech at 1st.
Mhm.
So now, like him and his little brother are like pretty much around the same spot. And the things they say sometimes, I'm like, I'm like, I gotta really watch what I say because they repeat everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But not
Yeah.
just what you do, but like or what you say, but like how you act, what you do. Like,
Yeah.
they're little
Your
mirrors, man.
mannerisms.
They-
You
I
start
know,
thinking
right?
about your every move.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That certainly keeps anger in check too. Like if you're always thinking, "Hey, this little creature is going to mimic my emotions too."
Mm.
And then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, maybe I should be careful about the way."
Yeah.
Like even if you don't say anything necessarily, just the way you respond. If it's
Yeah.
snippy or whatever towards somebody.
Yeah. Like
You-
full humility. That is my biggest struggle, truthfully.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's a huge. I mean, I would
Yeah.
say that's a huge struggle for most people in
Yeah,
life.
exactly.
To
Frustration is the one
truthfully-
thing that I have to battle with to keep
Oh
in check
my
on
gosh.
my day to day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about earlier before we even start recording, where like humility is like really self-reflection and
Yeah.
being able to, and like having a kid literally is like a little mirror. So like when you literally
Yeah.
see your reflection in this kid doing something, you're
Yeah.
like, oh wow,
Right.
that
Yeah.
is, you can't get more humbling than that for sure.
100%.
You know, and we're not there yet.
Oh yeah,
But
it's coming around the corner.
I
man.
know.
Oh,
I know.
yeah.
Everybody says it that the time rips and
Isaac's
whatnot.
looking
but,
at me. He's observing. I know. I know.
Yeah.
he is. Yeah.
Yeah, but like mirroring
Exactly.
quite yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's a scary thought. It's a scary thought. It's a humbling thought. But I mean, you try your best, and that's
Mhm.
why every day.
Every day's
I-
a grind.
Yeah, essentially, like biblically, it says every day you take up your cross.
Mm,
Like it's hard,
mhm.
and it's funny when people say. I know a couple, and this is sort of off topic, but some people say like, oh, like becoming a Christian is like it's not an easy thing. And biblically, it literally says you have to pick up your cross every day. Like, how hard is it to truthfully like carry a weight of
Mhm.
that? Like, that's a hard thing to do. And
Yeah.
and I think we should provide grace for each other, but we should also hold each other accountable
Mhm.
and just just do it as best as you possibly can, even though you'll fail.
Mhm.
Be the
You know?
best version of yourself that you can possibly be, and just
Yep.
be mindful of that at all times.
Yep. No
Yeah.
doubt.
For others, for your children, for your family, for
Yeah.
I think just make a better life for everyone around you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I never want to be that person that walks into the room and someone goes, "Oh,"
Right.
You know, you want to be that
I've never
person.
met
that,
a person like that before.
Yeah, we-
No, I'm just kidding. Only a couple dozen.
Yeah, you want to be the person that walks in the room and everyone's like, "All right,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
this
Like,
guy.
this guy's here.
Yeah.
The
Party's
energy's
here.
here.
Party's here. Seriously, but I think that's a good place to stop. We're hitting around that
Yeah.
mark.
Yeah.
But
Word.
this was awesome. I think
This was a good one.
This one ripped. This was super productive, and it's always nice
It's
to
because the party's
look
here.
inward.
Yeah.
Because
And
the
Grace
party-
here.
What's that Kesha lyric? The party don't start till we walk in.
Yeah,
that was a stupid reference. We're gonna delete that, please.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you should be in rap. Yeah.
Oh man.
We're in full circle. All right.
But anyways, Dan, you're a pastor at Wyoming F Christian Church,
Mhm.
which is on Wyoming F.
Very self-explanatory
If you-
name.
if
Yeah.
you picked that up.
Marketing was really good on that.
For anyone who lives in the general vicinity of this, that's in what is that, Kingston?
Kingston.
Yeah, that's in Kingston, Pennsylvania. So you could show up and talk to Dan in person
Yeah.
and really see how humble he really is.
Test my, push my button. See how, see how
Really give him a test. Dan, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah.
We
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it always.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Peace.
We're out. Peace.